Welcome to another episode of The Edge. I'm here to talk to you tonight about someone who actually inspires three of the most famous thriller horror movies of all time. And I'll bet most people out there didn't realize that these three movies were based on true stories, in part. This is a story of a gentleman who did some of the worst, most gruesome acts that were ever committed, if not the most. It's a story about Ed Gein. And listen to the end, and you'll find out what three horror movies of all time, the greatest three horror thriller movies that he inspired, even the book. In 1906, August 27th, a man by the name of Edward Theodore Gein was born in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Family moved into Plainfield, Wisconsin when he was only 8 years old. Ed Gein was the second of two boys, from George Philippine and Augusta Wilhelmine. Gein's father, who was an alcoholic and couldn't keep a job, at one point owned a grocery store, but soon sold the business and left La Crosse with his family to live in isolation at a 155-acre farmhouse in the town of Plainfield, Wisconsin. Augusta, Ed's mother, took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who could easily influence their sons. Gein left the farm only to attend school. Outside of school, he spent most, if not all of his time, doing chores on the farm. Ed Gein used to randomly laugh to himself, which classmates and his teachers thought were very odd. To make matters worse, Augusta, his mother, punished him whenever he would try to make friends. He was not allowed to have friends. On April 1st, 1940, Ed Gein's father, George, died of heart failure, which was caused by his alcoholism at the age of 66. Ed's brother, Henry, went missing a few days after. He was missing for a couple of days. After they formed a search party, he was found face down, also died of heart failure. Ed's mother had a paralyzing stroke shortly after her son's death. Ed and his mother were now all alone. He devoted himself to taking care of her. She then had a second stroke, in which soon after her health started to deteriorate. She died on December 29, 1945. Are you getting a clue of one of the movies? Ed Gein was devastated by her death. In the words of the author Harold Cheshire, he had lost his only friend and one true love. He was alone in the world. On the morning of November 16, 1957, Plainfield's hardware store owner Bernice Ward had disappeared. The last receipt printed off the cash register was to Ed Gein for antifreeze, which that led the police to questioning him and the search of his farm. As they searched the farm, he discovered Bernice Ward's decapitated body in the shed of King's property, hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at the ankles and ropes at her wrist, and torso was dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a .22 caliber, and the mutilations, the remains, were still there after death. During the further search, police also found the body of Mary Hope, a woman who went missing 3 years prior. Authorities also found whole human bones, fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin, covering several chairs of skin, skulls at his bedpost, female skulls with some of the tops removed. Also, bowls were made from the human skull tops. The corsets were made from female torso, skin from shoulder to waist, leggings made from human leg skin, and masks that were made from the skin of the females. Mary Hogan's face mask was found in a paper bag. Mary Hogan's skull was in a glass jar. Mary Warden's entire head was found in a burlap sack. Upon questioning, Gein told the investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume recently buried bodies. On November 21st, 1957, Gaines was arraigned on one account of first-degree murder. In the Washoe County Court, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Gaines was diagnosed with schizophrenia, found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. He was sent to the Central State Hospital for criminally insane and was moved from there to the Dodge Correctional Institution for a short period, which was maximum security, in Waupun, Wisconsin, and then later again transferred to the Mennonite State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin. Ed Gein's behavior inspired numerous books and movies and most influential horror thriller films ever made. Psycho, 1968, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Anthony Perkins. Also, a Robert Bloch's powerful 1959 book. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974, and The Silence of the Lambs, 1991, starring Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster. Ed Gaines was convicted of 2 murders confirmed, 7 suspected, 9 corpses mutilated obtained from desecrated graves. Ed's house was buried in the ground was burned to the ground on March 27, 1950. And shortly after, it was learned that an entrepreneur had planned to open, believe it or not, as a tourist attraction called the House of Horrors. Ed Gaines died in Mendota Mental Health Institute from respiratory failure July 26, 1984, at the age of 77. He was buried next to his family at Plainfield Cemetery. So once again, the 3 movies. And most of you don't realize that some of the movies that you see are based on true stories, or in part based on true stories and real people. And again, that was Psycho, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and of course, Silence of the Lambs. Doesn't that put a new twist on those movies? For the next time you see them, you're going to watch them a little bit closer, because you're going to know now that they were actually based on real crimes that happened in real life. And again, that was Ed Gaines. Feel free to look him up if you dare. Read the stories yourself. Find out. Until the next time, when we have another episode of The Edge. Have a nice night. Don't let the bed bugs bite. And you might want to sleep with that night light on, because who knows what lurks in the dark.